Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the XP Property Expose Q&A. Welcome to all the new viewers and additional welcome to those that come and visit and say hello every week. Thanks for very much for that. It makes it all worth it. So welcome. Jack's actually over in Turkey at the moment on holiday. It's his turn to go and enjoy himself, although he's just told me that most of the day he's been working, which, you know, standard for entrepreneurs and business owners to be working on holiday. But today we are going to be discussing these things. We're going to be looking at one of the planning approvals that we've got at our project in Princess Risborough. You'll find out what yada 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 means. We're going to be talking about legal packs and a couple of tips for property developers around those and selling properties. Some business tips in terms of trademarks, and I'm actually going through a trademark dispute at the moment, so we can talk a little bit more about that. I spent about 3 hours this morning filming a property that Aura finished last summer, which looks absolutely fantastic. So we'll talk about that a little bit. And then we've got 2 refinances on some of our projects going through at the moment. Jack can fill you in on some of those, and we're going to be discussing again the open day that we are doing next Saturday, so stay tuned for more details around that. Anything you wanted to say, Jack?
No, let's kick on.
Crack on. Cool. So we've been waiting for a long time. We're talking probably 6 months for planning approvals on Sunset Court. The main one being the introduction of some roof lights and some balconies for the building to the rear, which is the office conversion to four flats. Unfortunately, I don't have good news from that perspective yet, because we haven't seen an official approval. The recommendation from the planning officer has gone to the senior officer recommending approval, but I'm not going to count my chickens until they come in. What we did have, though, is a successful planning approval for the Section 73 application that we made for the external works and the landscaping. Now, we've had an absolute nightmare with this process. The site's quite complicated in terms of the planning applications that were approved originally. There was a planning approval separately for the 2 houses, and then the original office conversion was a prior approval application under Class MA. Now, we had to discharge some planning conditions for the landscaping, including surfacing materials and all of that sort of stuff, which is absolutely fine. But we didn't really like the approved site plan from the full planning application of the 2 new houses. So we just wanted to make some amendments, make the green areas more green, add some boundary treatment, and just play around with it to make it a bit more usable for us. The planning officers didn't like the fact that we changed the layout. They wanted us to just discharge the planning condition based on the original site plan. Now, we didn't like the original site plan, so we wanted to change it. We went through 2 applications where we were just trying to discharge the planning conditions with the new arrangement, but they rejected both of those and forced us down the route of the Section 73 route, which basically varies the planning conditions that you get in your decision notice. So we've now got a variation of condition 2 and 6, or whatever it was, in regards to the landscaping and the hard surfacing and boundary treatments and all that sort of stuff, to approve the lovely, beautiful gardens that you see in the courtyard in front of the development here. So yeah, success, not the main success that we want with the main application that allows us to actually finally finish this scheme. It's 95% complete. We've got to get those roof lights in. We've got to get this recessed balcony to this gable end, and those are the final pieces of the puzzle. But you know, success nonetheless. So just a quick note on the site open day next Saturday, and we'll be talking a little bit more about that later in this discussion. 2 comments. Who have we got? Cool. I need to look at a LinkedIn message from Barkin. Thanks very much. I will look at that afterwards. Doesn't really add much value to anyone else, so we'll move on. YARDA stands for the Young Architects and Developers Alliance, and it is the start of the London Festival of Architecture this week. And I was invited to the Heels building on Tottenham Court Road, that beautiful building that you can see on the screen. I didn't know what to expect. I've never been invited before. A previous work colleague of one of my team actually invited me over LinkedIn. And I opened the doors from the lift opened up, and there were about 400 people in the room. I could barely hear anything because the chatter was so loud. It was absolutely bustling. 90% of the room were probably architects. The rest of the 10% were developers. An absolute stomping ground for XP Surveys to go and throw some cards out, Jack. I made some good contacts and actually said that we'd be interested in sponsoring the event in the future, because it is our client base exactly. But they put on a good spread, lots of food. It was a great opportunity to meet other architects and developers in the space and build upon our network, basically. If you are an architect or if you are a developer, typically this is for, I'm surprised I got an invite because it's meant to be for sort of under 35s, but I've managed to squeeze in. But if you are interested, get in touch, follow them on LinkedIn, reach out. It's a great place for young architects coming up through, to get some insight into the market, what people are up to, expand your network, potentially look at HR and recruitment opportunities. For me, Wednesday night was a fantastic opportunity to meet part 2 architects, part 3 architects just graduating. We're looking to recruit in Aura Architecture, so it was a great evening of networking, chatting, and generally meeting new people. So yeah, I would highly recommend visiting that event if you are a young architect or an aspiring developer. And actually the amount of almost every architect that I spoke to when I said I do both architecture and develop, were very envious. They all pretty much want to move into the development space, and I had to say that it's not without its risks, it's not without its difficulties, but it is a very fruitful place to be if you can make it work. So yeah, get in touch if you're interested in that. Anything you wanted to say about legal packs, Jack, before I...
I was just going to touch on, actually, from an acquisitions perspective. Happy to do that because it's obviously methodical to selling. So legal packs tends to be the most common terminology when someone pulls something together, putting a property into sale in auction. But you can do, and Ben's going to come onto this, you can pull together your legal pack before your buyer is ready or before you've even marketed the property. And it gets all of your ducks in a row to prepare a quicker, more speedier sale, to get the relevant documents all in one place. This is really, really common in auctions because when the hammer goes down, the buyer exchange. So on that day, the legal pack has to be pretty much complete or be as fulfilled as it can be. Some auction properties don't have very large legal packs. But from a acquisitions perspective, and specifically more for auctions, we have a process. We do occasionally buy an auction. Most of the time when we bought an auction, we've bought pre-auction or post-auction. Pre, where we can agree a price and get it bought before it goes into the room, if we think it may be undervalued, or after, if we think the site or the property has been overvalued. So now, where do legal packs come in? More importantly, we have a conveyancing solicitor we use on all of our acquisitions, and they're not necessarily the cheapest. And it is quite a short, sharp, and fast process to get a legal pack turned around from a legal perspective. So getting advice on a report and title, report and pack. So we actually have a contact who's probably been watching us, or maybe even this video, which is Bushra, who's a qualified solicitor, and she does our own one-off, quick turnaround, and at a very reasonable value, a legal pack review. So it is very different from a buying perspective because obviously we're reviewing the pack and reviewing what's being given to us. But there's a lot that you would need to look through in terms, details in auction packs can be really, really minute and specific. For example, some sellers push the buying fee onto the buyer, and that detail can be featured in the legal pack. You might overlook that and then end up getting whacked with a auction fee without knowing it. So there's tons to look through when it comes to legal packs, but that's more of an acquisition perspective. If anyone wants an introduction to Bushra, let me know. We also have a sort of fact-find thing that we have ourselves. So obviously, if the title's okay, what the restrictive covenants, is there any planning issues, planning history, structural perspective, what's the building condition like? Because obviously you're sort of fumbling around in the dark with auctions, but that's a bit of a review on an acquisitions perspective.
Cool, good stuff. I wanted to touch on legal packs from a sale perspective because we're going through this process on Sunset Court now. And we haven't been as efficient as we could be with this. So this will hopefully help people that are getting to the end of their schemes to pull together a robust pack of information, whereby if you do get your sales start coming through and offers start coming through the door and you're going through the legal process, you've got your ducks in a row to speed up that process and give the solicitor everything that they need. So I thought I'd pull together a quick list of some of the things that we're currently pulling together for Sunset Court. You'll see the title plans, which are what I've shown on this image. So if you've got flats and you've got leasehold flats, you've got the red line indication of where that demise of that flat is. And then we've also got in this particular project, we've got a site plan with a few other details. So your red line is for your demise of the actual property. We've shown our garden spaces or private amenity in blue out the front and back. We've got this hatched pink area, which is effectively the areas that the buyer of this flat has access to, on road and foot, obviously across the car park, and then by foot across the courtyard spaces and the passageways. And then the orange indicates the location of the parking bay. So an architect might be able to create this for you, or a surveyor. You'll just have to run by the solicitor exactly kind of what they expect to see and how they expect it to be presented. There's very rigid things that land registry needs, so north arrows, scale bars, all this sort of stuff. But your solicitor can help advise on all of those things. So title plans is one of them. Planning documents. As I mentioned earlier, this project has been fraught with planning issues. So there are a lot of separate planning applications. There are a lot of decision notices. There are a lot of planning conditions that have been discharged. So there's a discharge notice for those. So ultimately, getting all of that stuff in one place to send over to the solicitor is just going to help things along nice and smoothly. So all of your planning decisions, all of your condition discharge decisions, and anything else relevant that the solicitor is going to need to pass on to the buyer. Any building warranties that you've got in place, so structural defect warranties or PCCs, which are professional consultant certificates, any type of building warranties that you've got on the site, building control certificates, the final certificates from them, and any associated information. All of your fire, electrical, gas certificates, your sign-off commissioning certificates, and things like that. An O&M manual, preferably. So we package up all of our O&Ms into a Google Drive link, send that across to the solicitor, and actually we might still be updating that Drive link as and when the contractors drip feed some of those operations and maintenance manuals throughout the process, or at the end of the project once it's all been installed. Home user guides are a legal requirement. We've got a template for these. If you're interested, drop a comment below, home user guide, and we'll get in touch and we can send you kind of a template of what we use for our home user guides. One thing we've done recently on sale of all of our assets, when the new buyers move into their new homes, we send a hamper and some drinks. It might cost us 100 quid, but genuinely the email that we got from our most recent buyer, which she was so thankful, so appreciative. It's just a nice little customer cuddle from a developer to welcome people to their new home. I remember when I bought my first flat about 12 years ago, I had a hamper from Halifax with some wine and some other bits and bobs, and actually a little handy toolkit with a little screwdriver set and all this sort of stuff, which I thought was cool. So yeah, just things like that help you as a developer kind of build your brand. And it went down really well with, it's gone down really well with our previous buyers. Make sure you've got your EPCs in line, again, a legal requirement. And then any information about your service charges. So have a think about how the site is structured. This one's relatively complicated with the flats and the houses, and then shared communal car park. So there's service charges to maintain all of that. And we had to set up a management company that then takes, that the new buyers kind of take ownership of, to manage that process, manage the site, and decide, how often they get the gardeners around, how often the waste is disposed of, any maintenance that might need doing. So hopefully that's useful for people, and you can use it as a bit of a checklist for your projects as you go along. Jack, do you want to start talking about this one? So this is sort of business tips.
Yeah, so it was actually uncanny that so Ben and I are in a group with Effie, my marketing guy, who helps us pull these together. And in our group, Ben said that he wanted to talk about trademarks because obviously, I won't give a spoiler alert. Ben's going through some trademark stuff this week, and coincidentally, in the developers club group, we were also talking about trademarking And in my opinion, when you're setting up a new business, specifically probably more focused on service-based businesses or businesses that are offering something, or your development company, there's three main sort of short, sharp checklists that I would highly recommend doing before getting too ingrained in branding, naming, logoing, meaningfulness, etc. And these are not the only three, but these are three really good starting points for you to get a really good understanding if you're going to come up. What we're mainly talking about here is competition in the same area, similar branding, copy branding, copyright branding, things like that. So the three main checks that I'd recommend is look on Companies House, easy as anything. Go on to search Companies House, search the names that you're looking for, see if there's anything similar, or see if there's anything worded with similar names. Domain, so you need to be buying your company domain, which is the bit that goes in your email and your website, and that is normally bought through most commonly 123reg or GoDaddy. See if it's available, because if you pick a name, pick the branding, set it up on Companies House, and then you go to buy the domain and you end up getting .org.uk. something else, it doesn't look that professional. So always pick a branding where there's .com or .co.uk. Some companies do go international, so .uk, but in my opinion, I think .co.uk and .com are the most trusted and robust domain names that you can buy. Little top tip, you could buy more than one just to protect yourself in the future when it comes to domains, for the sake of £10 a year. And then last but not least is trademarking. So trademarking is fundamentally, as what you may think, it's trademarking and copywriting your name, your logo, or your business in the sector that you want to be operating in. And it's much more formal and almost legal practice over than just selecting a name because it's available. When Ben and I did our companies, we got an actual barrister involved to help us make sure that we got the right application going forward and we were well represented. So if anyone out there thinking of setting up a business, or you have set up a business, just go and check these three areas. Obviously, if you've set the business up on Companies House, you've already secured that naming, and it's quite easy for you to change your name. What you got to remember is, before you go public, before you go out there, and before you start spending small fortunes on creating your brand, creating your alternative presence across different platforms, you want to make sure that these three main areas are covered off. And I think Ben's going to give you a bit of an example of why this might be beneficial, specifically speaking on trademark.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I was looking at my domain list a couple of weeks ago. I think it's about 30 domains that I've bought and own now, mainly because something pops into my head in terms of maybe that's a good idea for the future. You know, I want to kind of almost secure that web domain, and we've done the same thing with XP property, XP surveys. You know, I've got Aura-architecture, Aura-architecture, Aura homes, Aura-homes, or, you know, there's all sorts of things that I've bought as a domain just to kind of, like, you know, protect myself in the future. And I think people set up businesses very early on without necessarily thinking how big do they want to grow and how big could it get, and thinking 10 years ahead. They're just thinking, you know, just want to set up my business, want to get going, without actually thinking about 10 years in the future, how big the company may get, and protecting yourselves for that period of time. They're just thinking about the here and now, instead of actually thinking longer term about how big you want your business to go and how to protect yourself from day one by doing all of those things that Jack's been talking about. So yeah, I'm currently going through a few issues, and have been for the last, I mean, potentially even year. Actually, we might have started having conversations this time last year, but I've trademarked Aura-architecture, Aura-architecture and interiors, the actual word Aura, when it relates to you know, construction, architecture, design, that side of stuff. So yeah, we were notified that somebody registered a new trademark under Aura Kitchens about a year ago. It's a company called Merroway Kitchens, relatively big brand, but work directly, predominantly with sort of B2B people, and direct to sort of direct to consumer, maybe, no, sort of direct to. So Aura Kitchens is a brand of kitchen cabinetry that they've created to sell direct to sort of businesses, so it's direct to resellers. They don't sell Aura Kitchens to the open market, but they sell it to specific resellers. And I was notified of you know, the Merroway Kitchens kind of registering this this trademark, which it does. So if you are registered on the Intellectual Property Office platform, which is on the screen here, if there is something similar submitted as an application, it will notify the similar trademarks to say, look, something else has been registered. We think there's overlap with kind of what your trademark is registered for. Have a look at it. Let us know what you think, that type of thing. So I looked at it. It had a lot of overlapping things with us as a design practice. So, we design kitchens as part of our interior design. And there's a lot of design function that we do that they were trying to trademark as Aura Kitchens. Now, in 10 years' time, I might want to start and branch out into kitchen design and kitchens. And I'm not saying I will do that, but I want to protect myself if I do want to do that. So I don't really want somebody coming in now and offering and trademarking Aura Kitchens from a design perspective, because I might in the future want to do that. And because I've already registered Aura Architecture or Interiors or that sort of stuff, I was notified and I can put a stop to this or restrict what they can register. So I've had a couple of calls with Merroway, the guys at Merroway. Good outfit, really nice guys. And we've been back and forth for the last year in discussing, what really is it they're looking for, and we've kind of got to the crux of the fact that Aura Kitchens for them is the joinery. It's not selling to the wider market, direct to consumer. It's selling to businesses and sort of resellers, and we've managed to come up with a heads of terms agreement whereby the registration of their trademark is restricted to things that won't restrict some of the things I want to do longer term, but also gives them the ability to kind of do what they want from a kitchen cabinetry perspective. So yeah, we've been back and forth numerous times. We've had a couple of video calls. We've been back and forth on agreeing the heads of terms, but we're now in a place where the heads of terms are agreed. We've pushed it over to our trademark lawyer to draw up a formal agreement. And we're moving forwards from that perspective. So it's been a really interesting process to go through. I could have not been. I feel like I was maybe a bit stubborn about it. Maybe I don't want to ever go into Aura Kitchens, but I just felt like if I did want to in 20 years' time, and I would have kicked myself if I didn't at least dig my heels in now to protect myself for that future. Might cost me $3 or $4 now. But that could be money well spent. The other thing that I've got into the heads of terms agreement is that if Aura Kitchens, from their perspective, ever goes into liquidation or they discontinue their Aura Kitchens line, that the Aura Kitchens trademark automatically transfers over to me. So that's part of the negotiation that we've kind of been discussing. So I think I feel like I've protected myself for future endeavors. May not ever happen, but I felt like it was the right thing to do. Cool. Number 6. So this morning, I've been on site with Dan, my marketing manager. We've been filming this project for 2.5 hours. There's a lot more baby stuff in this house from these photos that were done late last year when it was finished. They've recently had a baby, and when you have a baby, you realize how messy it is. But there's toys and stuff everywhere. But it was a great opportunity to revisit one of our sites. I love it. I think it looks absolutely fantastic. I hadn't actually seen it finished at all until today. I'd just seen these photos. So it was great to go and actually see the quality of the workmanship, take a look at some of the finer details, exactly how these, tiles line up with the width of the Oriel window, the level of detail that, our architects have gone to kind of detail this really well. Sit in this Oriel window, which lets in loads of light, and this house tour will be coming out in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So if you're not already subscribed to the Aura Architecture YouTube channel, head over there now and subscribe. This is one of, I think, 5 house tours that we've done, and every one that we do gets better and better. We've upped the level of equipment and sound, voice recording stuff that we've done, and every one that we do, we hope to make just that little bit better. So if you've got any feedback on it, constructive or positive, we'd like to know, because it helps us improve what we do, and tell us about what you would like to know about these types of things. You know, I feel like people want to know what the cost is. We tried to give a breakdown of kind of how much things cost, a little bit about the kind of detail of the process, the planning process, the build process, any issues that were had. But yeah, fundamentally, that's what I think. I'd love to know what you guys think about how we can make those things better, because we're going to be doing a lot of XP property tours as well in the future. So any feedback is good feedback. Cool. Refinancing.
Onto refinancing. So you will see there in the photo in front, this is our double award-winning 14 flat development in Abingdon, Oxfordshire. The photo on the left is just as we had bought the site, and the photo on the right is once we had done a lot of work in the loft and added 4 dormers, and we're also, what you can't see is just finishing off the 14th flat refurbishment. But we're topical. We're refinancing 2 sites, one exit bridge, and this is long-term finance. We've been moving around the market to see what the best option is for us. And when we are talking about options, we're talking about trackers, fixing, loan to values, interest rates. What else are we looking at? Serviceability, interest only, or some part repayment. And we've actually settled on this particular scheme on a fixed 5-year mortgage of 5.3% for a block product. So that's the whole site on one mortgage, which is what we're opting for. The other particular site is more exit finance. So it's short-term exit finance while we're selling off the flats. This site that we just showed you, we're keeping. The other one we're selling. Therefore, it's more cost-effective to get onto something a lot more short-term. I also, probably relative on the topic of refinancing, one major change that I have actually seen in terms of rates is, I don't want to bore everyone listening with the interest rates and where they're going and what they're looking like, but what we are seeing is 2, 3 year, 5-year fixed products. The arrangement fee is really hefty, talking like 3% arrangement fee on term finance. So if you fix something for 5 years, these arrangements used to be 1.5, 0.75, 1.25. They're now 3% for the same duration of that product. So not only have the interest rate cost gone up, I'd say be careful of arrangement fees because they have equally gone up. And it might be worth you looking at different products, because if your interest arrangement fee is 3%, your early redemption is like 3%. If you plan to get off or refinance anything, that might actually be a really expensive way to go. So be careful of the periphery fees around these mortgages. Ours is 2% arrangement for a 5-year fixed at 5.3%, which we're happy with, which is 65% loan to value on our 14 rented out flats. One of them's an HMO, but the block brings in about £183,000 rental roll interest, and most of that will go to the mortgage, which is sad, but it's life.
Yeah, it's what it is. I was speaking to Sam from Merry Oaks, gave a good presentation about this at Brendan's event last week. He was actually saying some lenders are charging up to 7 or 8% arrangement fees, which he said, to be honest, he's never done an 8%. He's done a 5% arrangement fee, which is still, ludicrous. But their lenders are pushing things at the moment. They're testing things.
Yeah, I would caveat that with, it all depends what you're getting for that. There's a value where there's a value where everything works. For an example, we were buying a flat in Central Suites and we were paying on a mortgage 1% a month, which sounds really expensive considering we could have waited 5 months and got a probably at that moment in time 3% mortgage. But we were getting a huge discount to move quickly, which was way in excess of the cost of finance. So sometimes it's worth assessing the situation and why you need it. But yeah, an 8-9% arrangement fee is, we might have to go into something else, Ben.
I know, it's ridiculous, isn't it? Cool. I mean, it's worth keeping on the point of refinancing. Jack mentioned the exit bridge. Sunset Court, is the property in the development that we are moving on to an exit bridge. We're basically coming off the back of our development finance. We've got one of the 6 houses into legals, which is great. But obviously there's going to be a period of time now, hopefully sort of 3 or 4 months, where we get offers through the door and we start selling all of these units. But the development finance loan period is coming to an end. We need to find a solution. And exit bridging is designed specifically for that. So you take out the exit bridge for, let's say, 12 months. The rate that I think we're paying is like 0.82% a month or something like that. The idea is that obviously, as and when you sell a unit, you pay off that debt as it goes down. There are some exit bridging lenders that will actually allow you as the developer to take some of the sales proceeds. So they might allow you to take 20% of the sales proceeds on every sale to allow future funding of other deals, as opposed to just continuing to pay down all of the debt, which is interesting. It's a way of getting some of your money back quicker to either pay down some of your own debt or sort of move on and acquire other opportunities. So worth looking out for. But yeah, that's the site that we're actually doing the exit bridge for. So onto the open day. Yeah, next Saturday, 10th of June, 10 till 2. We'll have a couple of drinks and nibbles. We've invited our investor base, our solicitors, our consultants, family, friends. My little boy Lucas will be there running around causing havoc, I'm sure. And we'd love to see more of you there. So if you're interested in coming along, we're going to be talking through some of the difficulties that we've had with the site. We'll have a TV on site where we can talk through the sort of show the construction process of how things have progressed. We did do a time-lapse video of the new builds. I haven't seen whether the batteries were changed enough to actually make it worthwhile yet.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Is it all good?
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, it might take us a week to put it together, but
yeah, cool.
Yeah, it's there.
Good. So, I mean, we'll be showing kind of the whole progress of this site as it's unfolded, and you'll get to see the finished article, ask us questions that you may have about how we've worked this scheme. We'll talk about the finances and the issues and difficulties that we've had with it. So,
I mean, we'll talk about everything, won't we? How we found it, how we then secured that in legals, because it was a very competitive bidding process, how we've added value, what finance we used, how we structured that. So everything that you would want to know from a 360 end-to-end development of a 4-flat, 2-house development site, we'll be sharing on the day.
Yeah, perfect. Well, that's it from us. If you're interested in coming to the site tour, do let us know. But thanks for tuning in if you have done, and see you next week.
So there, everyone.
See ya.